everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today, right before Christmas season, holiday season. So glad to see so many people here. And my name is Will Taylor, and I'm the technical account manager and the head of the 40 professional services in 40 US. And with me, I'm joined with Komoncharoensiri, the director of technical services at 40 US.
Hello.
And with us today, um, in spirit, the team, the product ownership team at 4D, we've all been working together really hard. They've been working together with the engineering team, working really hard to deliver an amazing version that we're going to have a look that we're going to review some of the features today. And all of them have contributed to the demos that we're going to be seeing today. All of these, I believe most of these demos will be available on GitHub as well very soon, if they're not already there. So 40, just what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the latest release, 4021, that's currently in beta, and it's planned to come out mid-January. Okay. Yeah, that being said, we got a lot of ground to cover, and it's a great time for us to take stock, look at what we've done, discuss features, discuss new things, and really discuss how 4021 can revolutionize your development, your desktop application development and web application development. So now here's what we have planned for today. We'll start with a deep dive into the topic of artificial intelligence for 4D, how AI fits into the 40 ecosystem, and the new possibilities it unlocks. Then we'll continue with a walkthrough of the major features in 40 Qodly Pro with the focus on the most impactful improvements. We'll also take a tour of the key updates related to development and deployment, enhancements designed to help you go further, faster, and with even more comfort. So, without further ado, let's get started. Let's get started on the first topic, which is AI. 4021 changes how your application responds, not by adding more AI, but by letting the AI model work directly with your business logic and your data. Imagine a user is facing a deadline. They need answers, not navigation. They don't have the time or the patience to search through views, adjust filters, take a deep dive into the code always, or into the data always. They simply want to ask a question, and what the way anybody would, and the way we've become accustomed to as we're using chat, things like ChatGPT. Like, for example, someone may want to know, can you pull up the most recent unresolved security incidents for our European clients, the ones where access keeps on failing? All right, complicated query. The AI model understands the request, but it also recognizes what it can't invent. It needs real information, geography, status, and symptoms. Everything your application already knows. This is where a new feature, AI tool calling, becomes essential. The model identifies the function that should handle the request. In a case like this, it might call the get incident details function, which is a function you exposed for incident retrieval in your application. Your logic stays in charge, your data remains the authority, the model becomes the bridge between intention and execution. But one question remains: which incident is the user talking about? They didn't give an ID, they only gave context. They described a situation. Semantic queries resolve this gap by turning that description into the closest match within your ORDA model. The model creates an embedding from the prompt. Thanks to this vector, you can build a semantic query object that carries the meaning of your request. That object is then placed directly into your ORDA query along with your traditional filters. Yep, you heard it correctly. ORDA now supports semantic queries. And that's the value there. The AI model selects and calls the correct function, Semantic queries reveal the record that the function needs. Together, they create an experience where a natural question leads to a precise answer, fully powered by the structure you already built. Like the most recent unresolved case is that case for these countries, and it's where the access keeps failing. So very cool new way to do queries in 4021. So you'll feel how this directly becomes you'll feel how direct this becomes and understand how it changes the rhythm of your application through the demo Matthew will show us right now.
Let's talk about AI with 4D21 and 4D AI Kit. I want to show you the kind of experience your end users can get with AI features within your 4D application. So let's start this demo and have a look at the structure. So we have here people with skills, a job detail, and an address. Having a look at the Data Explorer, we can get an idea of the data we have. So you see here we have 600 people with job details, a billing rate, so it's totally fictitious. All of this was generated with AI, and here addresses all around the world. So let's use this application to search data in it, and we will use here a first new kind of features you can get is the semantic search. So let's search for the developer living in France here, and you get them here. And remember, this score here is the cosine similarity, and the higher it is, the best this record will match your data. This is made possible thanks to 4D dot vectors or embeddings, in fact. So the lower you go in this list, the lower the record matches your search. So here, for example, it's still a 4D developer here, but he's living in Switzerland. Okay, this is semantic search. And now let's play a little bit with a ChatGPT-like UI within your 4D application. So this is the kind of interaction you can get. We will use OpenAI here, and let's prompt this application. I need to build a project team, and I need the application to propose me an adequate team for a project I have. So here with tool calling, this UI is using an AI model to query my data using 4D functions declared as tools. And here is the answer from the model. What's impressive is that within a chat UI, I can have information about my data, and I get my cost estimation and a draft proposal. Okay, so these are employees from my database, and they are listed here. So what I can do is to continue interacting within this discussion to refine my proposals. So I can remove the front-end developer and write a proposal that I can paste in a Word document. Elaborate on the fact this is the best solution for my client. So here you see that the front-end developer was removed, and I have an elaborate proposal. Okay, perfect. And to continue on the end user experience, let's imagine you have this little copy button here, and you bring back your Word document and you paste it. And now I can just continue refining this offer, adjusting the text as you would do with ChatGPT or Grok generated proposal, but here it's with your real data. So just Imagine the time I just saved by working like that, and I think you understand the value of such features for your end users. I really recommend you to watch the replay of the AI webinars we made that will go into details into how you can implement this kind of features, so semantic search and RAG. And I also recommend you to watch the 4D method we had a few weeks ago around the same topics. Thank you very much.
Now you've seen how the AI model can work with your data. The next step is making its answers reliable inside your code. An AI response that it changes its shape from one response to another is very difficult to predict and to use reliably within your code. You need to start parsing things, and it's fragile. And your time now disappears into editing text and parsing text, whereas it could be simpler. That's the left side, unstructured output, and you're constantly guessing. Now, 40 AI Kit in 40 V21 removes that burden. You define the structure from the start. The model follows it. A schema with clear fields, a response with a clear shape. That's the right side, a clean object ready for your workflow. Once you work with structured output, the improvement becomes obvious. Every AI response becomes something your application can use and trust. Now, let's take a step back and look at what all this means for your business as software developers, professional software developers. With all the AI features available to you now, 4021 becomes an AI engine you can take to the next level. Not as hype, not as pure technology. It becomes a real new revenue stream that you can sell inside your software. You can make inside your software on the software that your clients already rely on without rebuilding or reinventing. Now, the hesitation around AI is understandable. People expect something heavy and expensive. Your clients don't want that always. They want clarity, speed, insight, and relief. They pay the moment you remove that friction from their day. And this is where 4021 delivers targeted small AI upgrades that solve real problems. Each upgrade provides features your client can accept immediately. And if the uncertainty comes from the data protection or setup, you're not alone. You can ask us and we'll provide you the best practices, architectural guidance if you need it, and even the guardrails to set up to protect your application and your client's data. The forum is already abuzz with early adopters sharing their results. Now, if you want tailored guidance, of course, professional services is available. And if you want personal support, your sales representative is just one email away. You are not stepping into uncertainty, you're stepping into opportunity. Now, imagine a search bar that's finally thinking. It understands intent instead of just letters in a chain of characters. It detects meaning, similarity, and direction. It guides the user instead of forcing guesses. That becomes a premium AI upgrade that your clients can proudly associate with their brand because every action feels more intelligent. The same story unfolds with 40 Write Pro documents. Imagine telling a team, give the document to your software and it will summarize itself, or it'll jump straight to the paragraph you need, or it'll label itself, extract its own insights, classify, enrich, structure, all automatically. That's not theory. This is automation your clients pay for because they immediately feel the hours they recover. Then you reach decision making, the hidden drain in every business. 140 form becomes the place where users speak to their application and receive answers with context, as if an expert were standing beside them. AI explains the reason, the narrative, the pattern, and the movement behind the numbers. It provides tables and charts for clarity. This becomes your AI Insight add-on, your premium tier, and your highest margin upgrade. Now, even the chores can become monetizable. Duplicate records, messy text, unclassified items, and document errors turn into subscription modules that clean, enrich, tag, or route content automatically to the right reviewer. So you see in the pattern, you're not selling AI, you're selling transformation. Marketing sees it, sales sees it, and your users will feel it. And here's the whisper you can't ignore. Your competitors haven't moved yet. Most are watching, waiting, hesitating. Well, this is your moment. The moment of being the provider who integrated AI early. And now the market delivers first movers, not the loudest ones, the ones who deliver. And 4021 gives you everything you need. Download the beta. LTS arrives in mid-January. Every day you wait is money left on the table. Now, before we continue, Matthew alluded to it in his demo. If you missed the recent AI webinar, the replay is available, and it shows how to add semantic search and RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, to your 40 application with 4021 and 40 AI Kit. And if you haven't watched it yet, it's worth your time because it connects directly to features you can monetize today. Don't miss the replay from Ricardo Mello and Matthew Faye either. Their presentation at 40 Method aligns perfectly with the AI webinar and deepens the same value story. So that was a lot. Does anybody have any questions thus far? I'd take a pause there. So someone asked, how big are vector fields? Like the size in the data file? I am not sure. What I have seen anecdotally through the webinars is that the size of the vector field, so a vector field is a vector of numbers. Like latitude and longitude is a vector of numbers, two numbers. This can be a vector of 100, 200, 300 numbers. So whatever that takes to store in the data file. I'm not sure you want to add them into every single record. Probably not, just some specific locations, but I don't have an average there. Rumor is they average 4K. Again, I'm not sure yet. We need to have a look. And every AI, every LLM provides, every LLM provides different amounts and different granularity in the vector. And also it provides different granularity based on the amount of RAM you have running on your machine. So, but I invite you to look to adopt it yourself and see and pass your data into a local LLM to see how big your data file grows. Someone asks, what about hallucinations? Not sure. So it's a really good question. Once you generate a vector field on a table, do they need to be updated? And if so, when? So I think my current understanding is that they need to be updated like an index, meaning they need to be updated when the record gets updated. Otherwise, you have stale vector data for an updated record. So they can sit there as long as they're not updated, and they can be used similar in the similar methodology of an index. Like good for you, Ed?
Yeah, think of vector as a calculated value. So anytime that something changed, it needs to be recalculated.
Someone said they need to be updated when the model you use changes or updates. I'm not sure about that, but to look into it. I guess if you change the model, probably. But if you have to change after every update of a model, that seems to be a bit onerous, and I don't think that is always true. So, and someone asked a really good question. They're coming back from 40 from after a long hiatus. How do you learn 4D? I would recommend contact your sales representative, and they will be able to point you to a bunch of topics any sort of thing that you're interested in doing. We can point you to topics either in KB, in a new learning platform that's coming online. If not,
So learn40.com. That's probably
learn40.com.
the best place right now to go to.
Yeah. So we're launching a portal for partners for you, the developer, to go through at your own some content for partners, some content for everybody, for you to be able to go and learn on your own with updated course material for V20 and V21. So it's a great question. And welcome back to the fold. All right, we have a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to keep it going, and we'll circle back to these questions. Keep them coming, everyone, please. Now we enter the next part of the webinar, which is deployment. The first feature is one your users will notice immediately. You rarely think about your network until the moment it betrays you. Every developer knows that quiet panic when a connection drops at the wrong time. A cable's pulled, your Wi-Fi weakens, you move from one room to another, especially when you're having a webinar. I'm kidding. In the past, a single moment could cost you a lot of time in lost progress. With 4021, it doesn't anymore. QUIC protects the session instead of losing it. This is not about networking, it's about trust. Real trust that strengthens the value of your product because it stays solid under the conditions you cannot control. And Damien will show us how it behaves, and you'll feel the difference the moment the demo begins. And let me share it. If that's fine with you, Ad.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm excited to introduce the new network switching feature of the QUIC network layer in ForD21, tested under real-world conditions. Let's set the scene. On the right, there's a machine running an application with 4D server. On the left, there's another machine running a 4D remote connected to this server. This computer has two active network interfaces, Ethernet and Wi-Fi. Since Ethernet offers better performance, it's the connection that's currently being used. You can see its IP address in the interface. Now I'm starting a data import from 4D remote. Everything is going smoothly. The interface displays in real time the number of records being imported, which naturally increases. In previous versions of 4D, unplugging the Ethernet cable in the middle of an import was risky, so you had to wait for the operation to finish. But with ForD21 and the QUIC protocol, this limitation no longer exists. Now, watch what happens. I'm unplugging the Ethernet cable and the import keeps going without any interruption. The system automatically switched to Wi-Fi and the IP address updates in the interface. In the server administration window, you can see that the IP address of the 4D remote has changed, and the import slows down slightly, which is normal with my Wi-Fi speed, but it completes successfully. Now, you might be wondering, what happens during the transfer of a large record, a big blob, or a video file? Here's what happens. I'm clicking on the Get Video button. This triggers a method on the server that returns a blob containing a large video file. As expected, the 4D server starts sending the blob to the remote server. You can see the activity in the server administration window. Now I'm plugging the Ethernet cable back to the remote computer. After a few seconds, the system automatically switches back to Ethernet. The IP address updates again in the interface, and the transfer of the blob continues without interruption. Once the transfer is complete, I can now see the downloaded file in this folder. And the video opens perfectly. So network switching works even during large data or local resource transfers. I hope this feature will be useful for the users of your applications. Thanks for following along. See you soon.
So as you can see, that's a massive improvement on internet resiliency, network resiliency. So within 4D. So very cool. Now add, take it away.
Okay,
Add.
so on to the next feature. So for a long time, 4D, every 4D development environment included more components than the project actually needed. They were also installed by default, even if you don't need them. While this worked, it didn't really reflect how developers really build the application. With 4D21, that's changes. Standard components are no longer bundled into the core environment. Instead, you add them as dependencies only when you need them. You simply open the Add Dependency dialog, choose the components that you want, and 4D installs exactly those, nothing more, nothing less. This is more than just making components optional. It's a development experience designed around your workflow, selective, modular, and fully under your control. Now let's pause here to see if anyone has any question.
The two questions in the QA. One is, what AI model, paid or local, has been the best for 4D development? First question. Is in the pipeline that 4D make a small model or a plugin component? So I think if you look back into, there's been a few webinars on this. If you look back, you'll see that we've had a lot of great success of 4D development environment working in Visual Studios with Copilot. We've had great success with that. And I think it was in March, there was a great 4D method meeting with Mohammed Idrisi, Mathieu, and Ricardo, where they went over how it works and how you can use Copilot with your 4D application. And there's even a YouTube video that shows how someone can make a complete form, a fully functional form with 4D, in 4D with Copilot in Visual Studio's Code. So it's pretty amazing what's happening there. So that's the preferred method.
The question is, you build vectors for all the records in the table. Then when you update a record, you may need to recalculate the vector. And when you add new records, they need vector calculated when you save that record. Trying to understand the vector calculating mechanism when you do it. I think that's kind of more of a statement, I think.
I think it's just a corroboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just asking. Yeah. I think that's how it works. Yeah. And the next question is, when you upgrade to an app in 4021, it uses Write Pro, 4D Write Pro. When you start, 4D Write Pro would not be installed. So what happens? You get compiler errors. How does the dependency manager work? I guess is the question.
So you get to choose your dependency, and again, it is done by you. Everything is under your control. You choose which component you want to include it. So you don't just create go into a project that rely on for the Write Pro without it. Once you enable that your project needs for the Write Pro, it will get it to you automatically.
The next one is the QUIC network switching. Is there some sort of protection? Someone hijacking the connection? It seems like the IP can change mid-connection. That could be a security risk. Interesting point. I believe that this is between the client and the server. So there's already a secured protocol between them and secured handshaking, and that's done. But if you have specific questions and specific concerns, feel free to reach out to those in the forum.
So QUIC protocol is enabling secure connection automatically. So everything is encrypted. So for any other sense of hijacking, we'll probably have to discuss in a separate context, which I don't know. But you're welcome to send us additional question. We can kind of find out for you.
Yeah. And someone asked, since Copilot is a Microsoft, does that mean we rely on Microsoft? I guess in Visual Studio's code, yes. I mean, to be blunt, we already rely on both Microsoft and Mac to deploy, to make software heavily. And it has shown, and Visual Studios is the place where all the young developers are using, is the place where we're in school, that's where young developers are writing their code. It makes the most sense to hitch our wagon to the best, most robust tool that's available for free for everybody. So yeah, and then in that, Microsoft Copilot is also has been shown to provide great results. So are we hitching our wagon to it? I wouldn't say that. I would say that we are definitely seeing great results with that right now. And Angel responded to Michael, said that QUIC is UDP based. So yeah, there's not as much of a, but yeah, again, if you do have specific concerns about the QUIC protocol, we can definitely review those with you if you decide to move to them. And then someone said they've tried several models. Copilot hasn't necessarily shined for them. And compared to Claude, Grok, or ChatGPT, again, we would like you to figure out what works for you and your use case, and then see which one makes the most sense for you and your business. So it's a lot of uncovering. It's a lot of discovery right now that we're seeing. So there's no hard and fast rule, especially within ever-changing environment. So cool. Keep the questions coming. These are great. I'd like to continue talking, and so we can make some headway on the 40 Qodly Pro news. So, interaction between 40 forms and Qodly pages. Now, this feature speaks to every 40 developer, no matter where you are with the web. If you're happy with your desktop app, you can keep it exactly as it is and still modernize it. A Qodly page can now live inside your 40 form and give you UI elements you never had before. It feels natural. It reacts instantly and runs on the same session that powers your form already. If you plan to build a web app, you can start without pressure. You can add Qodly pages one at a time inside your application you already trust. You keep your logic, you keep your data, you build your web experience at your own pace. And that is what you see on the slide. A Qodly page running inside a 40 form, fully connected, fully interactive, and fully part of the same environment. Now, this is not about choosing between desktop and web. It's about giving yourself the space to do both. You run with your desktop app today, and if you want a separate web app later, you can grow it piece by piece without ever starting from zero. This is how your application can become modern on your terms. And I think this is actually a major request from Kirk, who asked that in this session. So there you go. Hope you notice that. It's really awesome. The comments that we get in these webinars are often get fed up into the engineering team, and then they get shown. So now let us see how this is achieved, how to achieve this actually with Murad.
In this demo, I will show you how you can use web areas and 40 together with Qodly Pro to create a smooth hybrid desktop app. The goal is to show how 40 logic and Qodly interfaces can work together as one fluid experience. On my 40 form, I have a simple setup. On the left, you see a list of warehouses. On the right, there is a web area. This web area is not just showing a website, it is running a Qodly page that reacts instantly to whatever is selected on the list. Let me click through a few warehouses so you can see it in action. As soon as I switch, the details panel update. The name, capacity, category, location on the map, even the rating all changed in real time without the page reloading. Before we get into the code, I want to show you two important web area properties. I will open the properties list for web area, scroll all the way down, and you can see them here. Use embedded web rendering engine and access 4D methods. These two options are required. The first one gives you a modern rendering engine. The second one lets your Qodly page communicate with your 4D methods. If either one is off, the integration will not behave as you expect. Now, let's look at the object method of the web area. When the web area loads, an onload event fires. This event initializes everything. First, it loads the Qodly page. Second, it sets the context that the page will work with. In this example, the context contains a warehouse data class. Let me open that data class. Inside it, we have two methods. The first one, getWarehouseById, returns the warehouse entity based on an identifier. The second one, rate, updates the warehouse rating and saves the change. These are the methods that Qodly will call during runtime. Next, let's open the object method of the list box. On load, we select the first row so the web area has the data to display from the start. The important part happens whenever the user changes the selection. Right here, we call WA execute JavaScript function. Let me highlight it. This command calls Qodly.setSource inside the embedded page and passes it to the selected warehouse ID. That value is enough for Qodly page to update its warehouse source and refresh the details. Now, let's jump into Qodly Studio to see how page is structured. This is the detail space that appears inside the web area. It uses two custom components. The map component shows the exact coordinates of the warehouse. The rating component displays the rating and allows the user to modify it. Both components are linked to the warehouse entity that comes from the server context. I will share the component links in the resources. Let me show you how the data flows. The page loads with the first warehouse entity. Then we have an onChange event on the warehouse ID source. I will open the contextual panel so you can see it. When warehouse ID changes, Qodly calls the getWarehouseById in the server class and replaces the warehouse entity with the new one. This is why the page updates instantly when I change the selection in 40. Now, let's look at the rating component. I will select it and open the events. When the user changes the rating, the component triggers an onChange event. This event calls the rate function on the context. That updates the value in 40, saves it, and updated rating appears instantly inside the Qodly page. Let me change the rating live so you can see the full loop. I will give this warehouse a higher rating. The event fires, the data class method runs, and the new rating appears immediately. The round trip between Qodly and 40 is finished in a fraction of a second. Here is a simple warehouse list, but the pattern works for anything. Inventory management, product categories, customer dashboard, logistics interface. You can keep your existing 40 logic and data models and build a modern user interface in Qodly Studio that runs inside your desktop app. And with this, we wrap up our demo. Give it a try, experiment with your own data, and tell us what do you think. This integration opens the door to a very flexible workflow that blends the reliability of 40 with the freedom of Qodly Pro.
Super powerful. Very cool demo. Now onto localization. Localization always has existed in 40 through XLIF for desktop, but the web has its own rules. This is why 40 Qodly Pro brings a built-in internationalization feature created specifically for Qodly pages. It keeps your workflow simple. You can change the language, but you can also change the layout directly inside Qodly Studio without extra files or duplicated pages. The interface adapts instantly to your design, and your design process stays the same. So you build once, your Qodly pages speak to every user, just like Morad will show in this demo.
Hello everyone. In this demo, I'll show you how Qodly makes localization simple, flexible, and truly production ready. Usually, translating an app means juggling files, repeating UI work, and slowing down development. Qodly changes that by making localization part of your actual workflow and simplifying the whole process by handling localization inside the editor. You translate what you see, and the page updates immediately with no extra steps. What I have here is a fictitious app homepage for a job board. To start translating our page, let's head over to localization and add the languages we want to translate to. In this case, I want to add translations for French, German, and Spanish. Cool. Now that we have added the languages we want to translate to, let's head over to our page and start translating. Click on the localization icon on the toolbar to choose the language you want to translate to. Now, let's start adding French translations. I have French translations already made in a text file, so let's just copy them over. As you can see, I can add translations visually by pasting the text straight into the editor. No file switching, no rebuilds. Every change updates the interface instantly. So I always see what I'm translating in context. It turns the whole process from jiggling JSON into something as simple as editing the page itself. Alright, we have successfully translated our page to French. Now let's add German and Spanish all in one go with some help from AI. Qodly allows you to export translations into two formats, CSV or JSON. Let's export to JSON and open it in our VS Code. There, I'm going to ask AI to add missing translations. Cool. The AI translation is complete and looking good. Now, let's import it. I'll just drop the generated JSON back into Qodly, and the platform instantly maps every key to the right element, no manual matching. It's imported, and it looks like it's working perfectly. As soon as the file loads, Qodly applies every translation to the right component, and the interface switches languages instantly. From here, we can jump between languages and check that everything looks good. You can think of localizations as states of your page. It is not just about changing text. You can also adjust the layout, colors, and font sizes to create custom styles for each language. This gives every version of your app its own polished, native feel. For French, I'll make the header text a bit smaller since the translation is longer and needs more breathing room. Cool, it looks good. As you can see, Qodly makes translating pages incredibly simple. I can't wait for the Qodly community to try it out and share their feedback.
That's a great demo. Shows how easy it is to get the internationalization into your application if you need that, and how you can make it all work really simply with a simple workflow. And now I guess you can just do that inside of your 4D form itself. So very cool. Now let's look at how Qodly Studio itself is becoming faster. This release is not just about new features, it's about removing the small frictions that slow you down. 3 features, each solving pains you may have never even knew that you had, or had been able to name them. First, events reports. Events report. Your page is more than a summation of its components. It's also a chain of events that ties everything together. When something behaves unexpectedly, this report shows the full story in one place. Every trigger, every action, the logic that's usually hidden in the background now becomes clear. Second, page zoom. Good design needs 2 perspectives, the full layout and the details that change everything. Now you can move between the two without breaking your flow. A quick shift to overview, a quick shift to precision. In other words, if you need to fine-tune a very small or precise area of your Qodly page, Qodly Studio now allows you to zoom right to it And as your app deserves the perfect design, this is incredibly useful. Third, one of my favorites, one-click start. For anyone opening Qodly Studio for the first time, the setup disappears in version 21. One click and the required settings are enabled themselves. The studio opens and you are ready to work. And before leaving, I'd like to remind you of a webinar from Mary Sophie about how to secure your data with Qodly Pro. You'll learn how to configure permissions, define profiles, manage your license usage, and build a safe front-end experience with login, navigation, filter queries, dynamic pages, all of the above that adapt that you need for your application. The demo is currently being uploaded to YouTube, so subscribe to our channel to see it when it shows up. And with that, we conclude the Qodly Pro section. Let's hear from the questions. No problem. And then Juan Carlos asked, how do you link it to VS Code? From what it looks like, he just opened up the file that's on your desktop in VS Code, made the changes, and then dragged it back into the he imported it back through the Qodly interface. So Michael asks a really good question. If you use Qodly within 4D, does it use 2 licenses or 1? It uses 1. It uses the same client session ID. So it's all in the same. So you can have, that's why we're saying you can start to transform your forms into, let's say, web area objects that display Qodly components. And it works seamlessly between 4D forms and Qodly within a 4D form. So, but previously, up until now, it did require 2 licenses, but now it's only 1. The same one that you already pay for. Let's keep on moving, and I'll pass it to Ad for development news.
Okay. It's on to development features. So every entity operation follows a simple sequence. And before it happens, while it happens, and after it's complete. With 4021, ORDA gives you full control over each of these moments. You can validate data before it's written, apply logic during the write, and confirm results after the write is finished. Each phase becomes an opportunity to protect the integrity of your data. The same structured approach applies when data is deleted. And here's the key benefit. These entities events don't just enhance what trigger used to do, they replace them. And you gain more execution phases, finer control, cleaner code, and fewer locking constraints, all defined directly in the data class, exactly where this logic belongs. Next, Marie-Sophie will demonstrate this feature and walk you through its operation in detail.
Welcome to this demo on ORDA events. The purpose of this feature is to manage data persistence actions, such as save or drop, using a fully event-driven logic. In these ORDA events, we will implement the business logic related to save and drop actions. Until now, this was handled in triggers, but as you'll see, ORDA events offer much more control, a finer level of granularity, and also error handling directly by the developer, which allows you to stop the save or drop action. And the main advantage of these events is that they guarantee data integrity. Events are part of the ORDA abstraction layer, so their implementation is done in an ORDA class, the entity class, and they are not triggered by standard 4D code or SQL. They can coexist with triggers, but the triggers will be simply executed after the ORDA events. Events are implemented in a single place, in a class, and then the entire event logic comes into play and triggers the appropriate events according to the persistence actions performed on the data. As I mentioned, the granularity is finer. This granularity is divided into 3 stages. There is before the save or drop action, so we're mainly talking about validation. During the action and after the save or drop action. So for the demo, I'm going to walk you through the how do I that was provided in the blog post, and we'll look in detail at the save action, knowing that for the drop action, the logic is the same. So here, we're creating products with a margin. The margin attribute must be greater than 50%. So that's the difference between the cost price and the retail price. When saving, we save the product's user manual to disk and specify its path in the user manual path attribute. I'm going to set a breakpoint on the first event. All of this will take place in the production entity class. I'm setting a breakpoint in the validate save event that we configured for the margin attribute. I'm creating a new product, which name is demo. You can see that the user manual path attribute already contains the path to the user manual on disk, and the status is OK. Here I'm in my event. I'm in a case where the margin is less than 50%. I have the option to return an error. At this point, we're in the validate. We're not yet in the save action itself, so I have the option to return an error to check the consistency of the data and their values. The goal is to have data ready to be saved when we actually get to the save action. So here, everything has been stopped, the save hasn't been executed, and we can now send feedback to the user. So I'm going to set 2 more breakpoints, one in the second saving event and another in the third event, the after save. And on the product I'm currently creating, I correct the retail price so that this time I have a margin greater than 50%, and I'm going to check the option below to simulate running out of disk space when saving the user manual to disk. So now I'm in the saving event. So here we're precisely in the save action itself. And since I no longer have space on the disk to save the user manual, I have the option to return an error to interrupt this save action and ensure data integrity. So the save action here was stopped, and I am now in the third event, the after save, which is triggered whether the save fails or not. And the main purpose of this event is to manage data integrity in case of an error. So in this case here, I detect that there's an error. My file wasn't saved to the disk, so I reset the user manual attribute so that it's consistent, and I set the status to KO. And I can also send this feedback back to the user, and you can see that the user manual path attribute is an empty string and the status is KO. Also, be aware that for these events, there is no massive lock on the entire table. So here, I don't have a massive lock on the whole product table. We just lock the specific record concerned, so we can have several saving events running in parallel on the same table for different entities. Thank you for watching and listening to this demo.
Now let's look at Fluent UI, a feature that brings a modern Windows-aligned interface to your application. But Fluent UI isn't just a 4D theme, it's a full technical upgrade, a new API, a rebuilt communication between 4D and Windows, and a native integration of WinUI 3, Microsoft's latest UI technology. This gives your forms a modern Windows look while staying compatible, future-proof, and ready for upcoming Windows versions. Do keep in mind that Fluent UI is in 4021 developer preview. That means it's not going to be a part of the LTS release, but you can continue testing it in 4021 R2. And please, if you test it out, open up your application, test the new Fluent UI, and let us know what you think, and help us shape the final version of this feature. So, and Vanessa will show us in her demo how easy it is to enable and how differently your application can feel automatically.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about an important new feature introduced as a developer preview in 4D21, the integration of Fluent UI, Microsoft's modern design system. Fluent UI is a visual style that's cleaner, more spacious, with shadows, rounded corners, and of course, dark mode. Depending on the platform, there are different frameworks available for Fluent UI. In our case, for desktop applications with native controls, it's the WinUI 3 technology that has been implemented. But be careful. Fluent UI in 4D isn't just a new theme applied to your forms. It's a deep evolution, a change in API, a complete rewrite of the communication layers between 4D and the operating system. The goal is to ensure the longevity of your applications on future versions of Windows while modernizing their appearance. And all of this without breaking compatibility with your existing forms. The migration to Fluent UI has been designed to be gradual and reversible. You can enable the new design at 2 levels, either for the entire project or on a form-by-form basis. With a single click, your interface adopts the new Fluent look, buttons, fields, checkboxes. Everything takes on a more modern feel, more in line with Windows 11. If you disable Fluent UI, everything returns to the classic appearance. This allows you to test without risk and gradually adapt your screens. Visually, the change is noticeable. Objects are a bit larger and more spaced out. And of course, dark mode is supported. Now, let's try with a more complex database, the contact application, and check its compatibility. Let's go into the settings. Enable Fluent UI and nothing changes. Technically, everything remains the same. Same code, same objects, same events. But now, you benefit from the latest Windows API, which ensures better future compatibility and improved performance. This integration is currently in developer preview. It will not be included in the final version of 4D21, but you will still be able to test it. In 4D21 R2, our goal is to gather your feedback starting now. What are your impressions? What improvements have you noticed? Any unexpected behaviors? Now is the perfect time to influence the final version. Thank you.
That was a really impressive demo, I think. And I really like the drop down, all the space you're given now. I know Ad has worked hard making all sorts of writing all sorts of form objects and this and that to do exactly just that, but now it's out of the box with the new Windows stuff. So that's really a really cool new thing to see. Now on to you, Ad.
Okay, so let's go on to components. With 4021, you can edit component code directly from within the host project. Now, for developers who rely heavily on components, this is a meaningful quality of life improvement. There's no need to open a separate project window, switch contexts, or jump back and forth just to make small changes. Your reusable code remains properly separated, just as it should be. But now it is immediately accessible right where you are working. Now let's see how it works in Fabrice's demo.
Hello everyone. Until now, modifying a component from a host project could be a laborious process as it required several reloads and repeated restarts. So we've enhanced the 4D Explorer to allow you to display and modify a component from a project that uses it. As you may have already noticed, these new icons symbolize the components that are editable, that is, those created in project mode and installed with their source code. With 4D21, you can double-click on one of these components to open a tab bar at the top which lets you navigate between your host projects and your components. In the component's left-hand toolbar, you'll find the usual items. Home, which shows the component's tree structure. Methods, which gives you access to the component's classes and methods, commands, constants, and plugins, which list what is available in the component. And finally, the trash, where deleted methods or classes can be viewed and restored. Next, the two tabs, Tables and Forms, are not accessible. Tables, because a component's tables cannot be accessed from the host, and the Forms tab, because the form management interface has not yet been fully developed. Of course, this interface allows you to modify, add, or delete classes or methods. For example, here I can, for instance, add a new class. In which I will create a function. I can also create new methods in which I can call, for example, the function we just created. And I can test my code, and here we can see that the function's code was indeed called. Of course, I can also share this method with the host project. This allows me to call it directly from a method within the host project. And of course, I can run it, and we can see that the function was indeed called. You can also delete them. So for example, here I can delete method 7 and my class. And if we go to the trash, we can see the method and the class that were just deleted. We can go even further by creating a component directly from the host project. This opens a selector already in the components directory of our host project. And all that's left is to enter the project's name. My new component, for example. And there you have it. We can see that a new tab has been created with the name of the new project. Here we have the default tree structure. We can go ahead and create a new method if we want. Here you can add some code and so on. In conclusion, you can already perform a large part of your component development directly within your host project. However, keep in mind that these developments are not finished. There will be more improvements to come, such as being able to build a component at the same time as a host project. So I invite you to check the 4D blog regularly to see what's new on these topics. Thank you all, and see you soon.
Okay, for the next feature is HTTP response header. Now with 4D21, you can manage your web response behavior directly in the 4D HTTP server without relying on reverse proxies or external tools. You define your rules once, and they apply consistently across your application. From a single configuration, you can add or remove headers, enforce security policies, redirect requests to a CDN, or block sensitive paths, or return custom status codes. Now, the result is a simpler, more predictable web layer, and the confident that every request is handled exactly the way your application requires. Now let's look at what 4D21 brings to authentication. Two improvements that remove friction from workflows that you use every day. First, 4D NetKit now accepts full URLs for redirection. This means your authentication flow can send users exactly where they need to go, whether the process succeeds or fails. Second, OpenID Connect provides verified identity information directly from the provider, allowing your application to confidently confirm who the user is. Now, together, these enhancements bring clarity and reliability to your authentication flow. Users land in the right place, security is strengthened, and your code stays focused on the product that you're building. And with 4021, another major transition is now complete. The modern native classes are powerful enough that we can officially say goodbye to the 40 internet commands. You now work with a new generation of tools, secure TCP with optional TLS, cleaner UDP communication, stronger email transporters, and unified support for modern internet protocols. Everything is threat safe, event-driven, and built to meet today's security standards. And if refactoring takes time, the 40 internet commands from version 20 remains compatible with 4021. Now to close, let's look at the final group of features we could not cover earlier due to time. First, now you have unified visibility into server activity, REST calls, SOAP actions, and 40 action requests all appear as real sessions in your real sessions you can inspect. You can immediately see who is connected, how they connected, and their current state. Second, HTTPS requests can now use certificates directly from the Windows certificate store. There's no files to manage on the disk, no risky handling. Certificates remain protected at your system level, and 40 retrieves them automatically when a request is sent. Third, TCP communication is now secure. I think we're on the third one, Will. It's secure by design. Enable TLS, complete the handshake, and your data is transmitted in encrypted form. Fourth, partner developer licenses are now handled automatically. Sign in once, and 40 retrieves and applies the correct license to your machine. And finally, 40 language itself becomes more expressive. Base conversations are easier with enhanced string and num commands. And new trim functions clean up input values without extra boilerplate code. And now we are ready for questions.
Yeah. The trim command is really cool because I asked ChatGPT to write some code for me at one point and it assumed that 40 had a trim command. So that's really nice that we have it now. Someone asked, so specifically, Ed, can you speak about Inko's first
Tim is
question?
asking, right? If you have a database running compile or using preemptive processes, when you save and the trigger runs, the trigger is running preemptive. Does the trigger locked whole table or only one process can run the trigger at a time? I'm going to pause right there. So again, in the past, all triggers is running from one single thread. It means that everything has to wait whether it's triggered from one table to or another table, right? Once now that the trigger is now running preemptively, again by default. Now it means it can run simultaneously. The key is the trigger that's run on the same table still going to run on the same thread. Now you have multiple tables, it can run on multiple threads. And that's the difference between what is happening now and in the past. Let's see. So to go on to the rest of the question, okay, I think that's kind of cover what you're asking, which is whether it's running one or multiple.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Ad. Next one is can the developer use an alias to the component to modify the source code? I guess the context is for a lot of developers, they have many components in GitHub in their own repo, so aliasing it to the repo location would make it so that we're not needing to move files from the component editor component to within the repository. I'm not sure.
Are you looking at this is from Angel?
Angels, yeah, Angels, yeah.
We again, as what Fabrice described, we still the feature is not yet complete. So in terms of modifying aliases, that I do not have an answer to that, but definitely it's something that we can pass it on to the team and make sure that it's could be added as a feature. Currently, when you build a component directly from the host, as what you saw, it's basically lives in a specific location inside of the host folder, which is the component.
And then going back to network switching with QUIC, if someone starts on one connection, then loses it, how long does it stay valid? I guess is the question. That's coming up in a future release. The idea that it can lie dormant and then come back online. There's a lot of things that we're thinking about. Do we dim the screen and have something that says reconnecting and then it will fail at some point? There's a lot of questions. It's actually an open project right now within 4D. So you're right on the money there. It is not complete. The QUIC, all of the network reconnection and things like that is not complete. So more to come in the future release. That answered that question. So for this and many other things that are coming on with version 20 and then upcoming version 21, please have a look on the blog. Everything that's where Ad and I first get our view into all of the features that are coming in, and then we start working with the team. On the review of the blog, the team puts a lot of effort in there, and all of the how-do-whys are on GitHub for you to use, oftentimes with great demos. There's an amazing one that was recently posted. There's one in Discuss and one in the blog about adding a RAG system into your 30-year-old application. So that's a really interesting one, how you can expose your data into to an LLM locally. So that's a great one that was just recently posted. So keep on reading the blog. And if you do have any questions, continue to reach out to us through the forums. We all read them. We love your questions, and it's the best way to get the right person at 4D looking at your question. So, and I want to say thank you very much for attending. This is our 4th webinar of the year. It's always a great time to talk, to present, to learn, and then to really show what's been going on in the 4D world. So Adam and I are happy to continue doing this. And at that point, we'll say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And we'll catch y'all in the new year. And we're all very excited for 4D21 coming mid-January. So cool. Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing day.
Bye, guys.